Digimon Story Time Stranger's next DLC releases this month. Gaku-ran, or Fluttering Gaku-ran in Japanese, the next DLC story chapter focusing on the 5 Bancho Digimon. Bancho Leomon from the base game being joined by its Bancho compatriots, Bancho Mamemon, Bancho Lilymon, Bancho Stingmon, and Bancho Golemon. But there's a lot of people playing Digimon Story Time Stranger who are new to the franchise or returning after only being fans like back in the 90s or early 2000s, wondering, what is a Bancho? And what's a gaku-ran? Well, on today's video I'm going to explain all that and more so you're caught up on the inspiration and lore for the Bancho Digimon. What is up, digital companions? My name is Karn EX and welcome back to another video. And if it's not welcome back, you can of course hit that subscribe button, maybe the like button, and hype on mobile. Thank you. So yes, this next DLC wave is called Gaku-ran, releasing this month, January. We're actually probably going to get a release date pretty soon in the next week or so, and it focuses on the Bancho Digimon. But to really understand what the Bancho Digimon are in the Digimon lore, we first have to understand what a Bancho is. Bancho are, for lack of a better term, Japanese delinquents in school gangs. There's a great article by Vocal Media that talks about the history of Bancho and Sukaban. Bancho being the male Japanese delinquent and Sukaban being specifically the women, or girls, meaning that Bancho Lilymon would be considered a Sukeban specifically. There was a rise in juvenile crime in the 1950s up until the 1970s in Japan, with gangs of Bancho and Sukeban doing violent crime and theft while still at school. Bancho and Sukeban was both a delinquent culture but also a lifestyle and a clothing style, which is why this DLC is called Gaku-ran. The Gaku-ran is the traditional Japanese uniform of middle and high school students in the early 20th century. And I want to thank Kimura Kami for an article on the Gaku-ran. This is also linked in the description down below. And as you can see, these Bancho or delinquent students are wearing their Gaku-ran with these distinctive hairstyles. And if we look at the Bancho Digimon, yes, they have these Gaku-ran, these high school jackets. The word Gaku-ran literally just translates to student west, or student of the west, because it was inspired by French military outfits, which is interesting. Bancho then became semi-popular as a concept in media, I would say more recently actually, with the Japanese delinquent culture inspiring many pieces of Japanese media, but some prominent examples are Jotaro from Stardust Crusaders, who is a very typical intellectual, strong high schooler, but also a delinquent, first meeting him in jail. Then we have examples like Kongo Bancho, but honestly, if you look up the term Bancho on the internet, a lot of the results you're going to get are the Bancho Digimon. So in the lore of Digimon, what is a Bancho? Well, thankfully we have the Digimon profile Digi Report, the title of Bancho from 2021 to tell us. There are 5 Digimon in the digital world with the word Bancho in their names, a term that loosely translates to ringleader. Here we explain what a Bancho is and what it means to those special individuals. And yes, that is true. The word Bancho's literal translation to English is a little bit up in the air, hence why they tend to use Bancho in English media, but words like boss or ringleader or maybe even head honcho could be accurate, again making Banchos almost act like a school gang in some ways, which may also originate from the fact that the word Bancho was originally a position in the Imperial Guard in Japan in the 8th and 10th centuries roughly. What is a Bancho? First, let's take a look at the characteristics of Digimon with the title of Bancho. Wears a long school uniform jacket known as a Gaku-ran, possesses enormous pride and strong conviction, has fought through countless battles due to said conviction, is the mega level regardless of generation, and that's the long and short of it. It's not just about strength. A powerful will is an essential part of being a Bancho. This also shows that the strength and discipline that Bancho Digimon require is not inherently evil or bad or delinquent like they might imply. They tend to be Digimon that shake up the status quo but aren't evil, and we see this in things like Digimon Data Squad with Bancho Leomon, or indeed more recently in Digimon Adventure 2020, where Bancho Mamemon causes a ruckus but at his heart is a good guy. And that's true, every Bancho Digimon is a mega level, some digivolving directly from an ultimate, but some bearing the name of a champion. So the profile says next, let's take a look at each Bancho Digimon. First is Bancho Leomon, a mega beast humanoid vaccine. Answers only to its sense of justice. Bancho Leomon will oppose anything that gets in the way of its justice, up to and including the Royal Knights themselves. And Bancho Leomon is our original Bancho Digimon. If you've watched Digimon Data Squad or Savers in Japanese, you'll be familiar with it. Debuting gaming in the early 2000s. However, the Bancho group, while maybe alluded to prior to this, only became a thing with the advent of the 4 other Bancho Digimon in 2014, which is when all of the other Banchos debuted. Bancho Golemon, a mega mineral type virus attribute, constantly puts itself in extreme situations for the sake of training. Bancho Golemon appears to save comrades with whom it has exchanged blows when they're in a pinch. That's an interesting distinction. We do see in the gaku-ran trailer Bancho Leomon approaching Bancho Golemon. I do think Bancho Leomon is going to have to recruit all of his Bancho compatriots by fighting them one by one. Bancho Mamemon, a mega mutant type data attribute, chivalrous and compassionate. Bancho Mamemon formed an organization called the Mamemon Alliance, extending a helping hand to isolated Digimon. Bancho Stingmon, a mega insect type free attribute, consistent with Stingmon being a free attribute, values its pride over anything else and rejects all forms of compromise. The carapaces of various insects are woven into Bancho Stingmon's gaku-ran. And that's interesting, we do see Bancho Leomon and Bancho Stingmon squaring up in the trailer too. I wonder if Bancho Stingmon's going to be the hardest to convince. And then there is Bancho Lilymon, a mega pixie type data attribute, who believes strongly in fighting for the weak. Countless victims of assaults by fiendish Digimon have been rescued by Bancho Lilymon. And then we have Agumon Expert's summary. The title of Bancho was originally taken by Digimon who watched old movies and admired the idea of such ringleaders. Upon their demise, these Digimon would then bestow the title onto befitting Digimon of the next generation, creating a custom of inheritance. So yes, Bancho Digimon pass on the title to the future generation, and apparently there are other Digimon out there bearing this title. Our investigations are still ongoing. To me, this is the Digimon profile Digimon website saying that one day we will see a new wave of Bancho Digimon, perhaps inspired by more recent Digimon, as basically every member of the current Bancho lineup are based on pretty OG Digimon: Leomon, Golemon, Mamemon, Stingmon, and Lilymon, all coming out in the first 5 or so years of Digimon's conception. But what else does this information tell us about what we might expect from the Digimon Story Time Stranger DLC, and what else can we glean? Well, like I say, I think it's quite likely that Bancho Leomon is going to be recruiting all of his Bancho compatriots to fight a threat. That threat probably being Parallelmon. However, and this is spoilers for the DLC, so if you don't want to know the 5th Digimon you're going to be able to recruit, skip past the timestamp down below. We know that because Bancho Leomon is already in the base game, and each DLC wave contains 5 Digimon, we have a slot free. And unfortunately, this is not going to be like Bancho Leomon Burst Mode or anything like that. It's supposed to be Omnimon Merciful Mode, who is kind of the ultimate Omnimon that we saw in Digimon Adventure Tri. Interestingly, Bancho Leomon does have a sort of Omnimon-esque form that it can achieve, although kind of the inverse to Omnimon, Chaosmon, which it forms with Darkdramon and Valdemon. And this is particularly interesting because Darkdramon and Bancho Leomon, or Banchos in general, and the D Brigade, the group that Darkdramon belongs to, have a long-standing feud. If we go to Darkdramon's Digimon Encyclopedia listing, it says Darkdramon is an android Digimon believed to be the D Brigade's ultimate weapon. Rumor has it that D Brigade researchers created Darkdramon by digivolving a Tankdramon they recovered. Supposedly, this Tankdramon was defeated in an operation designed to eliminate a target codenamed Bancho. Darkdramon was literally created to destroy Bancho Leomon, and yet they can become this unstable fusion, Chaosmon, a Digimon that is not supposed to come together. Its encyclopedia listing literally saying, ordinarily when 2 Digimon go through DNA Digivolution, their Digicores fuse completely and a new Digimon is born. But a Chaosmon retains the 2 Digicores of its predecessor Digimon, meaning its form is highly unstable. Chaosmon is the code name used for Digimon that should not exist. I have a suspicion that perhaps during the events of the story, given that Bancho Leomon, Chaosmon, and Darkdramon are all in the base game of Time Stranger, we might see Chaosmon formed and Omnimon Merciful Mode have to show up to combat it, maybe fighting both Chaosmon and Parallelmon to free Bancho Leomon from this Chaosmon form that maybe Parallelmon caused. That's just a suspicion though. But there is no real established lore connection between the Banchos and Omnimon Merciful Mode. Bancho Leomon's prominent anime outing was Data Squad, whereas Merciful Modes was in Digimon Adventure Tri, other than just because they have to have an Omnimon in the DLC pack for casual fans to want to buy the DLC, which, let's be real, is the real answer. I do wonder on a lore or story level if the comparisons between Merciful Mode and Chaosmon are what they're going for there, even if it doesn't manifest in the story itself. Now you may be wondering, what are the Bancho Digimon going to digivolve from? Well, for some of them it's a very obvious answer. Bancho Lilymon is going to digivolve from Lilymon. I'd love to see some variety here, but as we saw with the first DLC wave, Blitzgreymon just digivolved from Metal Greymon, Gresgarurumon just digivolved from Weregarurumon. Wasn't a ton of interesting variety there, though maybe for the second wave they'll switch things up. Maybe we'll see Bancho Lilymon also be able to digivolve from Lilamon or something like that. Bancho Mamemon similarly is going to digivolve from Mamemon, or maybe be Metal Mamemon. There's a couple of Mamemon variants in the game, so we could see that happen, but I'm betting it's going to be regular Mamemon. Bancho Stingmon will digivolve from Jewel Beamon, like we saw in Digimon Survive. However, I do think there is an outward chance that it digivolves from Okuamon, which happened in Digimon Re-Arise, the mobile game, because all the Bancho Digimon did show up in that mobile game, and it does seem that they are taking some inspiration from Re-Arise as far as adding new Digimon and evolution lines go, which makes it even more of a shame that we haven't seen the brand new Re-Arise Megas in this game, but I digress. Bancho Golemon is tricky. Of course, first of all, its namesake Golemon is a champion, not an ultimate level, so we need a Digimon in between. I think it's unlikely that these Digimon are going to warp, although it's not impossible because technically Shoutmon does warp to Omni Shoutmon in the base game. Golemon digivolves to 3 Digimon in Digimon Story Time Stranger: Volcanomon, Mammothmon, and Meteormon. I'm gonna immediately rule out Mammothmon here. For me, the pick I would go with is absolutely Volcanomon. The volcanic theme of Volcanomon, the more humanoid look, leads very nicely into the rocky kind of semi-volcanic Bancho Golemon. However, there are a couple of points which mean that might be not the case. First of all, Volcanomon already digivolves into Bancho Leomon and has quite a stacked roster of evolutions: Bancho Leomon, Pile Volcanomon, Gankumon, and Apollomon. Meaning that yeah, they can add Bancho Golemon here too and really fill out its roster. However, the other option, Meteormon, first of all, yeah, it's made of rocks, it's a Gotsumon variant evolution, only has 2 evolutions in the game, to Metal Etamon and Boltmon, meaning there's plenty of room there. And there is some history to Meteormon becoming Bancho Golemon again in Digimon Re-Arise, and indeed even an old card from the old Digimon card game. You've actually never seen Bancho Golemon digivolve from Volcanomon before, so initially I said Volcanomon, but my bet is now Meteormon will become Bancho Golemon. Like I say though, there's always the chance that they can just digivolve directly from their namesake. Golemon warp to Bancho Golemon, etc. But Bancho Leomon can't do that in the base game, so that's why I'm saying it's probably not going to happen. Alright, Banchos, that is my explanation of what a Bancho is, what a Bancho Digimon is, and what you can expect to see from them in the DLC for Digimon Story Time Stranger. Let me know your favorite Bancho Digimon in the comments down below, and what Digimon groups or individual Digimon you want to see become Bancho next. Maybe I'll do another custom art one day. And thank you to my Sovereigns, ZDK14, Chaotic Prophet, Lupus Lichlord, and Jeremy Babineau, as well as everyone else who supports me over on patreon.com/Karn EX and my YouTube channel members here on YouTube. I appreciate you all so much, and I'll see you next time when we go digital. Bye bye.